Go. Good morning, students. In the last class, we had seen about organism, habitat, biodiversity, and ecosystem. Now, let us discuss about how do we group the creatures present in the universe. So, how do we differentiate and group all creatures in the world? There are millions of living creatures, including the microscopic till the giant creature in the world. Generally, we group animals as insects, birds, wild animals, domestic animals, marine animals, etc. Likewise, plant or as herbs, shrubs, trees, etc. Bacteria, virus, fungi, etc. are called as microorganisms. And this is the coronavirus. This is the coronavirus. So, millions of animals and plants are there. Plants and animals are of different types. So, how do we keep them in order? There is a term called binomial nomenclature. I will explain this later. Now, you may notice a cat and a tiger of same type. You can see a cat here and a tiger. Both are of same type, right? But how do you differentiate this? And under which category you can bring this? How will you group this? Universally. So, and scientist named Carolus Linnaeus made the things in order to arrange it. This cat and a tiger both resemble same. But we know that a tiger is a flesh eater, whereas the cat is a domestic animal. People all over the world should know that this is a cat and this is a tiger, right? So, similarly, the plant as you can see a coconut tree, a palm tree, and a date palm here. So, three types of trees you can see here. There are many similarities among these trees, but we know that there is a difference in the leaves of those trees. Yes, you can see now the coconut tree have different leaves, types of leaves. The palm tree has a different type of leaf compared to the other two, and the date palm has a obviously it is a different kind of leaf. So people all over the world should know that this is a coconut tree, this is a palm tree, and this is a date palm tree. For this reason, a common name for each and every creature in the world is given. Okay, but if we go in depth of all living things, there are a lot of varieties of animals and plants may look similar to one another. So, biologists researched each and every creature that exists in the world and gave a scientific name for their identity. You may have identity card, right, at our school. In that, your name, your picture, which class are you studying, those things will be mentioned there, right? That is for an identity. Similarly, for every creature, for every living organism in the universe, have some identification that was given by us. Okay? For example, in your classroom, there may be 2 or 3 students in the same name. You may identify them with their initials and with their structure, either height or weight or the color, right? So there is a need for classification to group, right? Classification makes the study of organism easy. Classification makes the study of organism easy. You have to study about the organism. Organism is nothing but the living thing. I told you already. Okay. So to classify that, we have to go for the classification of, to study that, we have to go for the classification. Next is, if we classify that, for example, you had seen the tiger and a cat. If we classify both the cat and the tiger as a domestic and a wild animal, it helps us to identify an organism belonging to a group by its characteristic features. And it helps us to know the similarities between and the differences in the structure of organism. It also helps us to understand how different kinds of organisms evolved from simple forms by their organs being modified in different ways. Hope you all might have seen a movie called Godzilla. In that movie, you might have understood how a small organism is evolved from a simple forms and their organs have been modified. So, if we classify the organism, we can study about the the organisms evolved from simple forms. Okay. And also, classification enables us to understand how different groups of organisms are interrelated. Many organisms are interrelated. For example, in our house we are growing a hen or a goat. Okay. Mostly non-vegetarians use that as an intake food, right? So every organisms are interrelated. We are also a human, also a organism. Okay. So those points are the need for classification. Now, how people classified the organisms earlier? So earlier they had classified the organisms. Okay. So biologists are an expert in a branch of science that deals with biology. Those people are called biologists. Okay. To study the diversity of life, biologists used a classification system to name organisms and to group them in a logical manner. And also, taxonomy is a science of naming, describing, classifying organisms and includes all plants, animals, and microorganisms of the world. The field of biology that deals with classifying organisms is called taxonomy. Okay, what is taxonomy? It is a field that deals with the classification of organisms. Okay, so here is a picture. You can see a person. His name is Carolus Linnaeus. He is a Swedish scientist. He belonged to Sweden. Okay, so he is a Swedish scientist. This Carolus Linnaeus is the father of our modern taxonomy. What I said earlier, taxonomy is the study of organisms by naming it. Okay, so he is the father of modern taxonomy. Please be clear with taxonomy. Okay, taxonomy is the science of naming, describing, and classifying organisms and include all plants, animals, and microorganisms of the world. Okay, please be clear with taxonomy. So here is the definition for taxonomy. Simply it is a branch of biology that deals with the study of classification of organisms. It's known as taxonomy. Okay. Next is Linnaeus is considered the founder of binomial nomenclature. I had mentioned a word earlier, 2 slides before, the binomial nomenclature. Okay. So this Linnaeus, this scientist, is considered as the founder of binomial system of nomenclature and the originator of modern scientific classification of animals and plants. He had classified a lot of microorganisms, animals and plants. But what do you know about binomial system of classification? What do you think about binomial nomenclature? Binomial nomenclature is a formal name. Okay, it's a formal naming system for a living things that all scientists use. All scientists use the single name for a individual organism. Here, by means two. By means two. So the scientific name has two words. Okay, the scientific name has two words. Binomial nomenclature gives every species a two-part of scientific name. Okay, if a species is there, for example, I'll tell you later in this part. Okay, there will be two words for the organism. Okay, so all scientific names of organisms are usually in Latin language. Latin is a language. Okay, and italics means they are written in italics. Okay, so italics means it is a slanted text. You may notice here the word biology is given here. It is a normal text, whereas if it is italicized here, you can see a slanted text here. So this is a italicized text. See, word biology is in normal text and italics. Okay. So a scientific name should be written in Latin. It has two words. The name has two words and the name should be in italics. Okay. Let me tell you about the scientific name of some species. The scientific name for dog is Canis lupus. The scientific name for dog is Canis lupus. And the scientific name for human is Homo sapiens. Please notice here the first letter of the scientific name is in caps, capital letter. and the whole name is in italics. It is a slanted text. Okay, it is in italics. Here also you can notice the scientific name of for human is Homo sapiens. The first letter of the word is given in capital and the overall text is in italics. Okay. So there are some rules for binomial nomenclature. It means what? The naming of the organism. Okay. For example, the scientific name for human is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. Okay. Homo is the genus name. Okay. Homo is the genus name and sapien is the species name. Okay. Sapien is the species name. What I said? That is a scientific name for human. The scientific name has two words. One is Homo and another one is sapiens. Homo is called as the genus name and the sapiens is called as the species name. For every creature, there is a scientific name. For dog also we had seen, no? It is Canis lupus. It is Canis lupus. The Canis is the genus name and lupus is the species name. Okay. So every scientific name has two parts. One is the genus name and the species name. So identifying the organisms by their genus and species names. Okay. So there exist two words. The name of the genus starts with a capital letter and the name of the species starts with a small letter. The entire word needs to be in italics. This is important. Okay. If the name is handwritten, it should be underlined. Here it was typed. The name is typed here. Okay. If it is handwritten, it should be underlined. That is very important. Okay. Example, Homo sapiens. I had told you. Okay. The scientific names are important because they allow people throughout the world to communicate without misunderstanding about the species. Okay. No one should call the scientific name of this human as Canis lupus. It will be misunderstood. Okay. So there should be a clear communication about the species. For that only this binomial nomenclature classification is handled. Okay. So next we can see about the hierarchy of classification. Hierarchy. Hierarchy means it is an order of things, like from descending to ascending order or from ascending order to descending order, like that. Okay. So hierarchy means it is an order of things or a rank. You may have in your classroom the first rank holder and the 10th rank holder. You may have, no, like that. It should be there should be a hierarchy of classification for all organisms. There are 7 levels of hierarchy of classification. Okay. So the classification of living things include 7 levels. The first one is kingdom. The first one is kingdom. This kingdom is the highest order of taxonomic studies. This is the highest category. Okay, kingdom is the highest category. Next is the phylum. And third one is class. Fourth one is order. Fifth one is family. Sixth one is genus. And the seventh one, last one is species. Species. Okay. So kingdom is the highest category of taxonomic studies and the species is the lowest category of taxonomic studies. In each levels, there are many types. Kingdom has several types under several subdivisions in this, and phylum has some subdivisions like that. Okay, those things we can see in next class. Okay, so let us clear about this. Have a clear idea about this. The classification of living things includes 7 levels. One is the kingdom. First and foremost is the kingdom. Next is the phylum, then class, order, family, genus, species. Okay. In further classes, we may look into the detailed classification of these levels. So the scientific name of a dog and a human is given here. For a dog, the scientific name is Canis lupus, right? Canis is the genus name and species is the lupus is the species name. So this dog belongs to the kingdom Animalia. Okay, I have told you that each and every level has several subdivisions. So kingdom has several subdivisions. One of that subdivision is Animalia. Okay. The second one is phylum. This is the order you have to follow for naming a organism. Okay, this is the order. First one should be kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. That is what given here. The last is true too. Genus and species means the scientific name. Okay. So the dog belong to the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Carnivora, family Canidae, genus Canis, species Lupus. Similarly, the human have the scientific name of Homo sapiens, the genus and the species name given here. Okay. So human belong to the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, order Primates, family Hominidae, genus Homo, and species is Sapiens. Okay. So take down the classwork now. Give any 2 points need for classification. There are 5 points I have mentioned. Give any 2 points. Okay. Define taxonomy. I have given the definition. Okay. What is binomial nomenclature? That also had given in the previous slide. Who is the father of taxonomy? Carolus Linnaeus. Okay. Specify the scientific name for human and mention the genus and species. Have to name the human scientific name of human, that is Homo sapiens. Have to mention Homo as genus and sapiens as species. Okay. So what is the hierarchy of classification? You have to draw the triangle, inverted triangle. I had told you, the kingdom, phylum, etc. So those 7 levels you have to draw. At least you have to write that. Okay. So in the last class, we had seen about the biodiversity introduction. So in this class, let us continue with that now. So each and every species have to be identified with its peculiar feature, right? So identification means it is the process of assigning a pre-existing taxon name to an individual organism. Okay. The more common form of identification is the identification of organisms to common names. Okay. So identification is the process of assigning a pre-existing taxon name to an individual organism. So the scientific name for a lion is Panthera leo. Lion is the common name and the scientific name is Panthera leo. But it was identified as the common name lion. I had already explained about the genus and species, right? The generic name or the genus denotes a group of things and it is the first part of the species name. A specific epithet or species is the second part of the species name. Okay, this thing we had already discussed in last class. Here the scientific name of mango is Magnifera indica. You can see here the common name is mango. There is a system and also a code for biological nomenclature. So these are the codes which has to be followed by the biologist. ICBN International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. This code was replaced by International Code of Nomenclature ICN for algae, fungi and plants. ICNCP. This is the International Code of Nomenclature for Cultivated Plants, also known as Cultivated Plant Code. Hybrid produced by the scientist. If a new crop is cultivated by hybrid process, then we have to follow this code only. Next is ICZN, International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. ICNP, International Code for Nomenclature of Prokaryotes. It is previously called as International Code for Nomenclature of Bacteria. Since bacteria is a prokaryotic cell, this code was renamed like this. Next is ICVN. It is International Code for Viral Nomenclature. There is another code for virus that is called ICTV. It is International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses. So here you can see two images. The first picture, you may notice a leaf fossil on a stone. It's a stone. On this you can see a leaf fossil. In the second picture, you may see an animal fossil. Paleobotany. What is paleobotany? It is a branch of botany dealing with the recovery and identification of plants remains from geological context. Fossil plants are also covered by code of nomenclature. Next is we are going to see a topic on museum. Museum is a collection of preserved plant and animal specimens. Specimens are an individual animal or plant used as an example for scientific study or display. So biological museums have a collection of preserved plant and animal specimens due for study and reference. These specimens are preserved in the jars filled with the preservative solutions to prevent that from decay and spoiling. Okay. Plant and animal specimens may also be preserved as dry specimens. Insects are preserved in insect boxes after collecting, killing and pinning it. Okay, the insect, if we have to preserve an insect, we have to collect that. I mean, it means what, you have to catch it by proper process, and you have to kill it by adding some chemical in that jar or some gas in that jar, and you have to pin that accordingly. I'll show that later. Now, larger animals like birds and mammals are stuffed and preserved. Okay, museums often have skeleton of animals too. So you might have seen in many museums you can see a skeleton of animals. I think in the movie Jurassic Park, the movie starts with an museum scenario, right? Okay. So these are the specimens preserved in the jars and filled with the preservative here. Okay, you can see here some scorpion or tadpole or frog. Here some lizard is there. Okay, so this is how the specimens or what, it's a insect or the animal, it may be a plant, whatever organism it may be, that will be preserved like this. Okay, so coming to biological gardens, there are almost 103 national parks in India and almost 72 zoological parks as zoos. Okay, India has the third highest number of national parks in Asia. So first is the China and second is the Thailand. They have a large number of parks in Asian continent. Okay, so we are at third place. In India, the largest zoo is located at Aringer Anna Zoological Park, Chennai, and the smallest zoo is Maharaja Bagh Zoo. Okay, the largest botanical garden is situated at Kolkata. The name of that park is Indian Botanical Garden. Okay, it is in Howrah. Formerly, it was known as Royal Botanical Garden or Calcutta Botanical Garden. Next is the National Botanical Garden that is located in Lucknow. That is also a famous one. Okay. Around the world, the largest park is Greenland's National Park. It is situated in Greenland. Okay. And the smallest park is Mill Ends Park in USA. It has only single tree, only one tree in that park. Okay, I will show the pictures one by one. So coming to sanctuaries, what are sanctuaries? Sanctuaries are the place where a bird or a living organism live peacefully. Okay, so largest wildlife sanctuaries in India is at Assam. The park name is Kaziranga National Park. And the smallest wildlife sanctuary in the world is Bor Tiger Reserve. It is located in Maharashtra. So overall in the world, it is the smallest wildlife sanctuary as well as in India. There is a famous park at England. It's called Royal Botanical Garden. It is located at Kew. So this is the Regional Museum of Natural History in Mysore. Is a museum located at Mysore. And this is a museum named Rajiv Gandhi Museum of Natural History at Rajasthan. This is a museum located at Thiruvananthapuram. The name is Natural History Museum. And here is one. Kanha Museum, Kanha National Park. It is located in Madhya Pradesh. Here you can see some skeletons are displayed for the study. This is a regional museum of national history at Bhubaneswar. Here you can see this is a bone of crocodile. This is a front head portion, nasal part. Okay, this is a nasal part of the crocodile. These are the tooth. These are the teeth or tooth. Okay, and this is the top portion of that head. Okay, this is located at Chandigarh. Here also you can see it is a museum located at Darjeeling, Bengal Natural History Museum. So this is Aringer Anna Zoological Park. Hope many of you would have visited. It's located in Chennai, Vandalur. Okay. So this is the smallest zoo, Maharaja Bagh Zoo, presented at Nagpur. It's the world largest zoo. I told you no, located at Greenland. These are called muscosan. These animals. This is the world's smallest park with only one tree here in USA. The Royal Botanical Garden at England, it is a famous one. The National Botanical Garden in India. This is a famous one in India, okay? And here you can see this picture in your book. It is located at West Bengal. The name of this botanical garden is Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose Indian Botanical Garden. Okay. This is the first ever botanical garden in India. Okay, there is a great banyan tree here, which had a position in Guinness Book of World Records. Okay, it is a great area here. This is the largest wildlife sanctuary in India, Kaziranga National Park. It's the Bor Tiger Reserve. It's the smallest wildlife sanctuary in the world and India. This is the entrance here. And coming to the endangered animals. What are endangered animals? The animals or the organisms which we could not preserve or protect or extinct. Those are called endangered animals. In India, there are many endangered animals in the following years. The first and foremost is Bengal tiger. We are losing it nowadays. Next is the Asiatic lion. We had seen many lions, no? This is an Asiatic lion, but now we are losing this also. Snow leopard. You might have seen in Discovery Channel. Snow leopard. We are not aware of the endangered species like this. It's a black buck. It's a deer type. This red panda. Panda you might have seen. This is a red panda. This is also a endangered species. And rhinoceros. One-horned rhinoceros. This is the Nilgiri Thar. Kashmiri red stag. See, there are many organisms and animals that endangered nowadays. Lion-tailed macaque, it's a monkey type. It's an Indian bison. So those are the endangered species in India which we have to protect it. Okay. Here we go. Herbarium. What is herbarium? Herbarium is a collection of preserved plant specimens and associated data used for scientific study. Okay. So this herbarium is nothing but if a plant has to be dried and the parts has to be pasted in a sheet, that is called herbarium sheet. Herbarium is a place where dried and pressed plant specimens mounted on the sheets are kept systematically according to a widely accepted system of classification. So using this we can classify on based on the uh, dissected flowers or the plant parts, we can classify which family that organism might depend on. Okay. So what is herbarium? Herbarium is a collection of preserved plant specimens and associated data used for scientific study. Okay. So this is a herbarium sheet. The organism or the plant paste done for herbarium here is water lily. The scientific name of this water lily is Nymphia, okay, or data. This water lily belongs to the family Nymphaceae. Already had told you know order levels of the system, okay. Kingdom, phylum, class, data, those things I had told you know. So this belongs to the family Nymphaceae. Nymphaceae. This is a flowering plant. In this herbarium, you should note down the collection date of this organism and the location where you had collected this. For example, the area where you have collected. Is it in Pondicherry or somewhere Chennai like that? You have to mention that. And the height of that plant or the flower, you have to mention that. There are some measuring things that you have to measure and report here. Okay. So the leaf is pasted here and the overall plant, overall flower with this petiole, sorry, pedicel, it is done here. And here each part of that flower is pasted here one by one. Okay. So this is a herbarium sheet. Another example is shoe flower Hibiscus rosa sinensis. This belongs to the family Malvaceae. We will call this as Sembaruthi in Tamil. Here also you have to mention the date on which it was collected and the location where you got this, those things. Okay. So this is called, these are the herbariums. Now let us see where and all we have herbariums in India. These are the herbarium located at India Forest Research Institute FRI at Dehradun, Herbarium of Indian Botanic Gardens at Calcutta, Herbarium of the National Botanical Gardens, Lucknow, Madras Herbarium Agriculture College and Research Institute, Coimbatore, Herbarium of Division of Botany, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, IARI, New Delhi. Okay, so these are the some list of herbarium in India. There are many. Okay. So what is the importance of herbarium? Why should we collect plants like this and have to paste? What is the need for this herbarium? Herbaria is document the world's flora and provide a constant and permanent record for botanical diversity. Okay, so if we see that the plant has to be preserved, right? Okay, so the flora provides a record that and the history of that plant. Okay, this role is increasingly important as the rate of habitat destruction increases and climate change precipitates rapid changes in species ranges and all aspects of their ecology. So, what does it mean? There is a climate change nowadays, right? And there is a habitat destruction also, right? A bird has to live in a nest on tree. Okay. By years later, it makes its nest at our home itself nowadays. So this is the destruction of the habitat. It should be on tree. That is this place. Okay. But it is moving to a tree. Why moving to our house? At some undisturbed place. Okay. Why it is why it is made like that? Because of the habitat destruction. Okay. So these things we can study only by the herbarium. Okay, so that only herbarium is important. Okay, coming to insect box, I had told you no insect box in the previous slide. Okay, insect collecting refers to the collection of insects and other arthropods for scientific study or as a hobby, like stamp collection. Many of some of you in your class may have a hobby of collecting stamps. So similarly, you may collect the insect also, and you may have an insect box to preserve that. So because most insects are small and the majority can be identified without the examination of minute morphological characters. Okay, a honeybee may look like a small bug also. We have to differentiate that, or we have to identify this is what the honeybee is. Okay, the date and location and the condition of that specimen and the geography of that species must be mentioned along with the specimen. So here also in the insect box you have to mention this date, location, condition and geography in that along with that insect. Okay. So this is a empty insect box. Here you can place your insects like this, and each has to be mentioned belong to the family or kingdom or the other data that should be provided here. So this is a insect box. This is a single insect box. May collect like this also. Okay. So in Pondicherry we have Usudu Wildlife Sanctuary and Botanical Garden. Okay, after this COVID pandemic, if we come over this, then if there is a chance to visit the sanctuary or botanical garden, please do. So take down the classwork now. Write down any three system for biological nomenclature. What do you mean by paleobotany? Write short note on museum. So whatever you know about museum, write that. Okay. Which is the largest zoo in India? Which is the largest wildlife sanctuary in India? What is herbarium and give its importance? Name any two herbarium in India. Make any one of the flowering plant as herbarium at home. Okay, try and submit. If you have any doubts further, you may ask in the next class. Thank you.